what are the key steps that allowed you as David to bring down Goliath?
It's a great. Oh, Gabby, I love that. I love that framing. There's regardless of what size company you are, you're going to have competition, and the competition could be your customers not doing anything, right? They're choosing not to solve the problem that you solve. The process, and again, it's the same for a startup as it is for a Fortune 500 company. It's 4 stages, right? The first is research. So this is where you're, looking at data, using the data to become directionally correct around where do you need to dig deeper in, and then talking to real people. Your sales team can give you a lot of that information, kind of the questions to ask, that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, you need to be talking to customers and finding out what problem are they trying to solve, and position your product or service as the solution to that problem, right? So researching to find that out. And then obviously you want to make sure that it is tied to your business outcomes as well, right? So where you're going to focus your energy. The second step is your messaging strategy, right? So what is the narrative? What is the story? Like what is the sales and marketing coming together to form a cohesive narrative that is going to resonate with that customer or that potential client or that prospect or that existing customer that you're trying to upsell, right? Like what is that messaging strategy, and define that as a team. And then what are the channel what's your channel strategy going to be? And I just want to point out, your channel strategy does not have to be digital, right? For example, our channel strategy was, well, digital email, right? We reached out and invited folks to come to these events that we were hosting, because the messaging strategy for them was, you're entrepreneurial, you want to continue to grow in your career, and we have these learning opportunities that we want to give you access to, right? That the channel strategy was reaching out to them, finding them on LinkedIn, but reaching out to them intentionally and inviting them to that event, right? So the channel strategy doesn't necessarily mean PPC, doesn't necessarily mean, posting on social. It's a combination of things, right? So think of it as your sales funnel. And the last thing is just getting it done as cost efficiently as possible, right? Again, we can always do the cool and exciting things, but as marketers, I challenge us to figure out what is the minimum viable test that we can do to validate the solution, that or the strategy that we've put together, right?
Yeah.
And reframe the value that we're bringing, not as here's all the marketing stuff that I'm doing, but rather I've saved us money by doing it this way versus another way. That's also value that marketers can bring to the table as well. So yeah, it's research, coming up with the messaging strategy, coming up with your channel strategy, and getting it done.
And I would say, I think I'm going to say this, how do I say this? I think you're being very humble because you've oversimplified it. There's 2 things that you mentioned earlier that I want to make sure that we bring back here, because you spent a lot of time identifying the ICP, the ideal client profile. And you mentioned earlier in the conversation that not only did you come up with the demographics of who these people are, but also the psychographics, how they think, what they want, what they need, what are their pain points. And even further to that, you went even deeper and said, what disqualifies them? What are the qualification criteria, but also the disqualification criteria? What would make this ideal client profile or this lookalike ideal client profile not really be the right person that we're going through? So I do want to make sure that we bring that back into this part of the conversation, because that was a huge part of what you did and is also a huge part of what we as marketers need to be doing. And then secondly, we underscored this quite a bit earlier in the conversation, but talking to your customers, talking to those ideal client personas, talking to them, understanding really from their perspective and their point of view, what is really the pain point that they need solved, and what are the ways in which we're going to solve them, the messaging, the things that are going to resonate. So I do want to make sure we underscore those, because that was huge, a part of what you did, and what really led you and your team to be able to find that solution and deliver that message straight to those people.